So good afternoon, everybody. I guess I'm far enough away. I'm allowed to do that. So there you go. I just ask you to please make sure you shut off your phones right now. That happens, and we are not paying attention, and we just think it's off, and then all of a sudden it rings at a very inopportune moment. Give you all a chance to do that. All right, so on behalf of the family, I would first like to thank all of you for being here today. Our world is certainly a different place now, as you can see from the seating and by the distance we all need to keep each other safe and healthy. By you choosing to be here during this time, the family appreciates your presence more than you will ever know. Richard also sends his regrets. We all know that he would be here right now if he could. He joins us online today, as many other friends and family members do, by the gift of modern technology. We know it's not the same, but it's what we have to do once again to stay safe and healthy. We will also hear from Richard later in this time of sharing. My name is Wayne Lashpal, and I'm the chaplain at Notre Dame. I'm honored to have been asked by the family to share this celebration of life with all of you. The story begins like everyone else's story. Two people fell in love. Their names are René and Antoinette, and they began a family. In a little town near Old Quebec City called Saint-Roch, Claudette Angelina Bedard was born on the 11th day of July, 1933. It was a Tuesday. No one would know the amazing life she would start that day, a life she created and the life we celebrate today. She was the first of 6 kids. There was Claudette and Paul, Jeanette, Lawrence, Georgette, and then Paulette completed the family. When Claudette was 6 months old, her parents made a move to Matachewan. And parts of her childhood story was not a very storybook-like story. Her parents were hard workers and ran a motel for local miners. Right beside the motel, there was a big pool hall and a bowling alley that they also ran. Her parents really had no time to raise kids. And it was a different time then, and it was a hard time in the years surrounding the Depression. At a very young age, she was placed in a convent to be raised by the nuns. Ultimately, all 3 girls in her family were sent to live with the nuns. She never even knew her 2 sisters were her sisters while she was in the convent. I'll jump ahead right for a moment into her adult life here, only because, if you knew Claudette, a spade was a spade. You always knew where you stood with her. And while we were talking the other night with Richard and Colette and Alan, we realized that probably from being kept in the dark with her sisters, their mom refused in her adult life to stand in anything but the light. Claudette's truth was her freedom. No more shadows, no more secrets. She said everything she needed to say all the time. So none of us could imagine the hard and scary times she had being raised in a convent. We would never really know the extent of her childhood challenges because every story and every picture of Claudette always had a big and bright smile, and there was laughter in all of those pictures. She was full of life. She chose that laughter and joy. It wasn't fake. It wasn't a coping mechanism. She chose to be happy, which is a lesson to all of us here today. We cannot let what happens to us define us. We can all choose happiness. Claudette did, and we should be inspired by that part of her story. Moving along, she left the convent around 16 years old and shortly thereafter moved to St. Catharines, Ontario. She got a job at a little diner to pay her bills. No one can remember the name of the diner or even if it's still around, but it is a historical building to the Coombs family because that is where Claudette met the love of her life, Claude. He was a seaman working on the major boats and waterways going through the area, and he just happened to go into that unknown diner. She was 18 when they married, and Claude was only 21 himself. They went back to Matachewan, and they got married on May 3rd, 1952. They officially moved to Hamilton to begin their life, and that is when Hayward, Richard, Leonard, Colette, and Alan started to call her Mom. There's a little bit of inspiration here I need to play for you.
Glenn Miller played songs that made the hit parade. Guys like us, we had it made. Those were the days, and you knew where you were then. Girls were girls and men were men.
I play that for those of you that don't know. That's a theme song from All in the Family. And so many people lovingly referred to Claude and Claudette as Edith and Archie Bunker from the TV show All in the Family. They were a pair that lived and worked and loved so well together. So when their kids came into the picture, this is where the stories got a little more juicier and a little more hysterical. Let's start by saying that Claudette never really had time to see the grass grow under her feet. She was always moving. She was a hustler and a shaker, and part of her love of freedom to move around in thoughts and actions came from a huge entrepreneurial spirit and hard-working attitude. She had an idea one time where she would open her own textile shop. So, with the planning that Claude and the kids would follow behind her later, she had literally opened up the shop in Englehart, Ontario, which is about an hour and a bit from Timmins. It was her first store. Think Fabricland for the metropolis of Englehart, Ontario. Her hard work was becoming a reality when life, as it sometimes does, throws a huge curveball. Claude broke his back in a horrible accident at Selco, and Claudette had to come home and take care of him and the family. Her store would not survive life's curveball. Her husband was not well and in a full body cast for a while. He needed a lot of care, and with no paychecks coming in and many mouths to feed, her survival instincts kicked in. So did her wild and crazy ideas on how to make a living for this family. She bought a green Chevy pickup truck. She would get the kids to help her, long before recycling was actually a thing, by collecting all the neighborhood's bound-up newspapers and turning them in for money. The kids also remember one morning at 5:30 a.m., the booming voice of their mother saying, "Get up, everybody up. We have to fill the back of the truck with manure, and we're going to go and drive up and down this street, and we're going to sell it and shovel it into the gardens and the flower beds of the people who want it." She even moved all the kids into the living room, and she and her husband into the dining room, and they rented out the top floor of their house. She rented out to minors and to other people because they needed the money. She did what she needed to do to make sure that her family survived. Even though they worked hard at home and outside the home, all the kids, they all say they've got nothing but great memories of Mom. Except for that time when Richard was almost murdered by his mother. Dad was Richard's savior, literally. Richard was 3 or 4 years old, and Claudette had worked many hours on beautiful homemade pies for company that was coming over for dinner later that night. Richard, being a little kid, maybe around 3 or 4 years old, pulled up a chair and with his bare hands ate the centers out of all the pies. When Claudette saw what had happened to her hard work, and with only an hour or so before the dinner guests arrived, Claude literally had to hold Claudette down because she was going to kill her child. This just reminds us that Claudette was not a perfect person. She had her own moments of mistakes. She would often load up all the kids in the old huge family car and drop them off at the beach, and then go back a few hours later to pick them up. Of course, the kids loved the freedom, and you certainly couldn't do that today, but back then it was probably the best of quiet time for her. Nothing ever happened, thankfully, but there was this one time she dropped off 8 kids at the beach, and then she only ended up driving home 7. Only after she got home, she was looking around, a little puzzled, and asked, "Where's Alan?" Yep, she left him at the beach. She sped back to the beach only to find Alan very happy, actually, because the security people felt bad for the poor abandoned child, and he was eating an ice cream cone. So it was a win for you, but your mother was a little paranoid. Well, on the topic of ice cream, which was Claudette's favorite, she had a huge chest freezer with big tubs of ice cream purchased from Uncle Henry. With so many kids, she wasn't a stupid lady. She literally had that freezer padlocked. And how did the kids get a scoop of their favorite ice cream, you might ask? Well, of course, she made them work it off. Because she was crazy clean, she would give them money here and there for tasks not wanted to be done by anyone. Vacuuming, dusting, cleaning the crystals on the chandelier, and the like. Everyone hated Saturday mornings because that was Mom's cleaning day. Claudette was, even with her own kids, an entrepreneur. Every time one of the kids wanted an ice cream, she would charge each kid a dime 10 cents, if they wanted some ice cream. She was even making money off her own offspring. She was an amazing entrepreneur. She had a large, booming laugh. She was feisty, and people described her as personality plus. She was loud and bossy, and when she said jump, you jumped. She was consistent and tough. Claudette was that tough but fair, though, person. That's sort of hard to find in people. She welcomed everyone in. If you needed a place to live, come and live here. You need some food, I'll go shopping for you and stack your cupboards. You want a party as a bunch of teenagers? I'd rather have you all come here and party and have a good time in my house. You need a babysitter? Drop them off. She even picked up a hitchhiker near Machawan, near North Bay, with a car full of kids. Didn't know who he was, just a hitchhiker. She drove him all the way to Hamilton. She insisted he'd stay over. She cooked him dinner and breakfast, and then he left in the morning on his way to Goderich. No one can remember his name. It didn't matter, because it's just who Mom was. She was the ER triage for all the neighborhood moms and their kids. Claudette would be the decision maker, stitches or not. My mom gave the answer. Their mom gave the answer. Hospital or no hospital. She was very musical and never met a piano she didn't like playing. She never touched alcohol, but she was the life of the party. She would sometimes say the next morning, I'm hungover today. And the kids would say, but Mom, you don't drink. And Claudette would say, well, your father was drunk and he was breathing on me all night and he got me drunk. Claudette also wasn't ashamed to ask for help, especially when she would just whip open her front door and scream, Michelle, I need help with my earrings. Michelle, earrings. And God bless Michelle, who no matter what she was doing would drop everything, run across the street to the Coombs' house and help her put in her earrings. If Mom felt like doing something, she did it. Getting in the car and driving for hours, she did it. She needed to tell a relative off who wasn't pulling their own weight or loving their kids enough, she'd tell them. Once again, we might want to question some of her ethics, because maybe she wasn't always perfect with that. Like there was this 19-year-old friend of Hayward who would show up at the house at 12 a.m. or 1 or 2 a.m. and would be all liquored up and shouting, Mrs. Coombs, you want to play some poker? Mrs. Coombs, you want to play some poker? Mrs. Coombs, Claudette, would actually get out of bed and would play poker with him and gladly take every dollar and dime he had on him. She was also loving six-handed euchre, poker, cribbage, you name the card game, and she is playing it. But another question comes up. Rumor was she may have been a little bit of a cheater, too. This is one of the great mysteries of the family because she may have not been outwardly cheating, but just so that you know, she never lost any game. Ever. Not once. She won every single time. So there's some rumors that maybe there were some questionable sleight of hands and maybe some rigged card games. Maybe. Claudette had a good heart. It came natural, without even thinking. She helped where she could, always. Richard's daughters, Kaylee, when she was in grade 4, was in grade 4, and when Claudette found out they were learning French in school, she went right into her school and taught French for the whole day. The teacher didn't really have much of a choice. It was the ultimate bring your grandma to school day. Colette remembers her mom and her outgoing personality, and it couldn't even be stopped by a major snowstorm on the way to Thunder Bay one time. They were on their way out west, and she had her mom, and in the truck, and in Thunder Bay, they had to stop at a little diner because the snowstorm was so bad. The storm got worse, so they had to wait it out in this little diner. But instead of just drinking coffee and hanging out like most people would, Claudette dragged her daughter into the kitchen. Colette ended up being given dish duty, and Mom started making pâté chinois. Then when the storm cleared, they left with a new sign on the diner countertop that read, today's special, pâté chinois, which is shepherd's pie, that her mom had just made because they were stranded. She lived a life with no holds barred. After a grandma had passed away, a cousin had a piano on the back of a pickup truck, and it's a favorite memory. As that piano pulled into the driveway on the back of a pickup truck, their mom climbed right up there and sat down and played the crap out of that piano. She was a fierce mama bear, too, when she needed to be. Alan had jaw surgery around 18, and the nurses were busy chatting at the nurses' station, not doing their job or paying attention, and Alan's IV had ran out. Terrified and with his mouth sewn shut, Alan couldn't speak and was in distress. His mom grabbed a pen and paper for him to write down what was going on, and when she read what was happening, she went tearing down that hallway, and those nurses got more than an earful. Now go help my son. She loved and lived to drive. She would drive all the way to Surprise, Arizona, where they had a trailer. The road was more freedom to her. Dad hated to drive, and Mom hated to fly, so she would just drive and drive and drive. She loved the road. She was a little bit of a leadfoot in her earlier years, and in her later years, when she was driving around the grandchildren to school, she really slowed down. Her cargo now was way too precious, and Emily and Jake were convinced that they probably could have walked to school faster than what Mère had driven them. In her later years, she babysat neighborhood kids and still helped out family members and friends. When you think about it, she just loved to be surrounded by people. Being around people of any age brought Claudette joy. And while I'm on the subject of grandchildren, she adored all of them. And even though she might be gone physically, hopefully you know that she still lives inside of each of you. Elliot, you already have Mama's joy of life. Aaron, you share her sense of family, and you have a good heart like she did. Matt, you have a very good work ethic and a great drive to succeed and survive no matter what comes your way. She had that too. Candace, you have Mama's musical inclinations, even though she wasn't the best piano teacher for you. Jake, you really are a lot of your papa, and because Mama loved papa so much, she loves seeing you grow every single day. Emily, you are her truth teller, always telling the truth straight up, and you're a great debater. Mama loved a good debate. David, you have Mama's resilience, and you are such a great dad. Your love of kids is the way Mama loved her kids. Kaylee, you have got Mama's wild side. You're a great mom too, but you would still throw caution to the wind every once in a while for a good time or a good story. And by the way, Mama is probably in heaven right now just whispering, just do it, Kaylee, just do it. She also leaves behind 7 great grandchildren, Berkeley and Bentley, Liam and Lennon, Byron, Nori and Hudson. They all now have someone special watching over them. And now I would like to talk to the kids. Richard, Colette, Leonard, and Alan. I hope you know that your mom loved you more than anyone could ever put into words. She brought you into this world with love, and she left loving you just as much. I know towards the end she didn't always know what was going on, but know that in her heart she knew who you were and how much love she had for each of you. In her mind, she had all her memories and moments of each of you. She just couldn't always find them in the fog of her illness and her aged body. She was blessed. She was a blessed woman to have the 5 of you as kids. She was never alone because you were all there, every minute, making sure she was being taken care of. Don't think for a second, whether beside her or from afar, that she didn't know how treasured and loved she was. She knew it in every fiber of her being. She was loved. And with her knowing that, there should never be any regrets. And hopefully you know that your dad and your big brother Hayward were waiting for her to come home. And now I'd like to speak to everyone that's gathered here. We all know that life is short. And today, I don't know, I think 87 years sounds sort of short too. We'd all like to have her around just a little bit longer. After 32 years of being a chaplain and over 50 years of living this life, here's what I know. Here's the truth about what I know about this life and death stuff. Life has to end, but love doesn't. I'll say that again. Life has to end, love doesn't. Your memories of Mom and Mamed and Claudette will be your souvenirs. And wow, did she ever leave you with a trunk of souvenirs? There were dinners and playing the spoons, cookings and Christmases, music and parties, visits where she clearly was the matriarch of the family, tons of laughter and love. And that's a love that some people never ever experience from their parents or from their friends. You all have a ton of pictures of her smiling and loving the life she had, even if those pictures are just in your heart. Beginnings are scary, and endings are usually sad, but it's the stuff in the middle that counts. She had so much good stuff in those middle years. Don't spend a lot of time thinking about the ending of her story. Always celebrate the amazing life that she lived. When you're missing her, just talk to her. Share with her your day or your heart or your struggles. You hold all those amazing memories of Claudette Coombs within you. Nurture them, hold on to them, dance with them. Life has to end. Love doesn't. We will all see her again someday. We will hear her singing and laughing. She might even be needing some help with her earrings and call you over to help, or call you over to play another round of cards. We are all so much richer for having Claudette in our lives. We celebrate her today and always. Now we have a very special message from Richard and a special tribute he prepared for everyone here from his mom.
Welcome everyone. I can't join you today. I'm here in Dawson Creek, BC. But on behalf of my family, I would like to take the time to thank you for coming out. And I'd like to also thank those for watching online. Our mom, Claudette, was small in stature, but larger than life in personality. When we were young, the neighborhood knew when it was supper time for the Coombs kids. Her booming voice would echo down Glendale and Roxborough Avenue. Hayward, Richard, Leonard, Colette, Alan, it's time for supper. And we would come running most of the time. Mom was a woman of action. She was always trying to get her card game going, games or music with friends, sharing, laughing, singing, and talking, and a little bit of drinking. Oh yeah, there was a little bit of drinking at 53 Glendale, especially in the backyard. Mom was very outgoing and sociable, which, unless you knew her very well, might come across as a little bit pushy. Oh yeah, very pushy. But her heart was in the right place. Mom made friends at the drop of a hat. She one time befriended a young Japanese couple. I think she was on a bus going somewhere. And I even think they stayed at her house for a night. But anyways, they ended up inviting her to Japan. And she went. She kept in touch with that Japanese couple for a number of years. Relationships to her were very important. Mom, as you probably could tell, loved to travel. Dad, not so much. She would go anywhere, and he would prefer just to stay at home. She traveled to England. Australia, Hawaii, Japan, all over Canada and the US. She just loved to travel. And she was not afraid to try anything new. And I think that's how a lot of her business ideas started, was through people that she met. And she got that entrepreneurial spirit from her parents, I'm sure of that. She was a good negotiator as well, and she really understood the art of the deal. Mom could talk anybody into anything. I remember her setting up a space in the garage for Dad to give buzz cuts to all the neighborhood kids for 1 pack of Rothman cigarettes. That's what he charged, a pack of cigarettes. Young kids coming to the garage with a pack of cigarettes to get a haircut. We ended up buying a pickup truck. I think it was the very first pickup truck on the street. 69 Chevy, 3/4 ton, and we delivered manure, and we moved furniture, we did all kinds of things. These were all the kind of things that Mom came up with ideas of how to make money. She just liked doing that. She even tried her hand at real estate. She bought a house 5 doors down from where we lived on Glendale, and she ended up renting it out. I believe it was in the early 80s. And of course, Dad was the guy that did all the work on the house. So you can imagine anytime Mom would come up to him with a new idea, and I could just see it, he would just roll his eyes in the back of his head. Oh my God, here we go again. But she had a heart of gold, and she would help out anybody in need, from dropping off food hampers to picking up hitchhikers while she's traveling north to Northern Ontario or coming back from Northern Ontario. Babysitting neighbors' kids to driving friends to appointments. Mom was always there. She could be depended upon. So what I've done is I put together a video of some of our family memories that I would like to share with you. So I hope you enjoy them. Take care and bye. That's what you are.
Unforgettable, though near or far. Like a song of love that clings to me. How the thought of you does things to me.
crocodile, I wish you would explain how great big you could squeeze up through my narrow bathroom.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Mom, Cece, Claudette, Mathilde. Happy birthday to you.
Someone who needs you like I do. You'll never see what you found in me. You'll keep searching and searching your whole life through. Question of better, baby. But there's no ifs and buts. You're gonna miss my love. I know you're gonna miss my love. You're gonna miss
Unbelievable, Richard. That's an amazing job. I'm sure you can hear us from where you're at. You might have a career doing something else after you retire. That was an unbelievable tribute to your mom. So we want to thank everybody here for coming today. It means so much to the family. So before you move, we're going to ask everyone to stay. I'm going to ask two fine people here in the front row to please leave the room. There's some instructions you people all need. Now we apparently have two flower girls. Where are our flower girls? Please remain seated. Don't go anywhere. Carnations were Claudette's favorite flowers, so they're going to go around and give everybody one today. We ask that you make sure you take the one flower each home, and the prayer card, and the deck of cards that was left for you too. She'll playing cards and gambling. We could see that all over in the video. So maybe at Thanksgiving or Christmas time, crack open that deck of cards and play a hand in honor of her.